Hello and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. This is attempt 2, so I am hoping that my microphone is now working and that people can hear me. So if you have been patient and you've waited for me to go and reboot and try the microphone and see all of the stuff, then please do let me know if you can hear me. That would be very, very helpful. Welcome to Wildcard Week. So we had our new moon in Dargaz. Here is Dargaz, the rune of the day, was yesterday, and Dargaz is a very powerful rune for us at the moment because the sun is in Dargaz at the moment, and will be until, well, it'll be for another week after the solstice. So the half month of Dargaz, when the sun, when Suna's chariot is in Dargaz, is always in the summer solstice, and the summer solstice is always like bang in the middle. So happy summer solstice for those of you who are planning to celebrate or perhaps have already celebrated the summer solstice. I can see that I've got at least one person joining me. Hooray! Please do let me know if you can hear me. I did have clients this morning and I had no problem with my microphone, so it was just for us that the microphone decided not to work. And I don't know what that has to tell us about the energies of this coming week. I will feel into it and play with it. The theme that we are working on, and for those of you who have Suna's Star Wheel, which is my monthly, let's say, sort of inspiration guide and calendar, that will have come into your inbox on yesterday. And so you will know that we're working with the theme of day walking and night walking through the course of this month. And this week is the week of ideals and of illusion. And often in Middle Earth readings, I find that the runes bring this sense of two themes that our zone of play, our place of play through the course of the week, that help us to step more fully into our power as we take our journeys, our hero's journeys, as I like to call it. And that's an important part of the Northern tradition, this idea that life is a journey, is an heroic journey. Hi Michelle, lovely to see you. Okay, so your new moon rune is Tewaz and Dargaz is your Nornia's gift. If you could let me know if the sound is improved, that would be incredibly helpful. I went and tested the microphone, it was all fine. I did all of the diagnostics, but obviously if my microphone is still an issue, then we're going to have to abandon Middle Earth readings for today and see what's happening, because it must be a clash between my equipment and Facebook, because it was fine when I was working on Zoom. So please do let me know if you can hear me okay. The Tewaz rune, we're not going to be doing a deep dive into the Tewaz rune today, but it's a wonderful energy for you with this, like the spear flying through the sky, and the Dargaz rune is like the horizon, so it's really moving yourself and drawing yourself towards that horizon. It's a bit better, says Michelle. Okay, that's the best I can do. I've got it on 100%, so it's absolutely the best I can do today. As I say, I bought a new mic because I was having problems with the microphone, so this is my ideal is that you can hear me. The illusion for me is perhaps that I'm going to have to just work on the assumption that you can for the course of the live, and then see if I can work out what's happening with the sound on this computer in the future. But your energy, you are flying, Michelle, with your Tewaz rune and your Dargaz rune of the horizon there. If you are joining me, then please do, as Michelle has done, share the rune, share your rune that you're working with. And this might be a rune that you have drawn for yourself, perhaps for today, perhaps for the week, perhaps for the lunar month ahead, particularly if you're following Suna's Star Wheel with me. Or it might be one of your birth runes that you are taking a deeper dive into, or it might be a rune that has come forward for you as a spirit guide that you just know that you need to work with. So do share, whether you're here live or whether you're coming and joining me in the replay, what your rune is that you're working with at the moment. We're going to be taking a deep dive into 4 runes today. Normally we work with 6, but because we have 5 weeks to play with through this cycle, we are doing 5 on most weeks and 4 today. And as I said, we are feeling into this energy of ideals and illusion, and the space of play that they operate for us, this space of which Dargaz can do both. The energy of Dargaz is very strong, as I say, and it can really draw us into our ideals. It can say, this is the horizon, this is the beckoning horizon calling to you. Step forth into it. It is a rune of rebirthing, but it's not a rune of let everything else go and something like new is manifesting through you. There are other runes that do that. It's a rune that says you're already there. You might not have spotted that you were already there. It's a little bit like Dorothy on the yellow brick road, and she gets given the red slippers, but she doesn't recognise the power of them. And it's not until the end, until Glinda Good says, "You always had that power," and then she can take herself home. So that she needs to believe it, and that's what the Dargaz rune does. It says, "Oh wow, I didn't know all of this time I was trying to work out, how to do this and look for the people and do all of this, and I didn't realise that I already had that power." And so Dargaz is like a deep energy of realization. It's an embracing of transformation, which sometimes we don't realise that we've transformed. Hi B, lovely to see you. So Dargaz is the energy that we are working with. But on the other side we have illusion. And illusion can be all of those things that are obscuring our vision so we can't see that we've already made the transformation. But it could also be that point where idealism itself can be even like a dangerous force at times, particularly if it makes us very narrow in our focus, and we're not able to see other people's views, we're not able to collaborate, we're not able to be pragmatic when we need to. So it's that place where we say, okay, so my ideals will carry me forward, but I need to be able to manifest in the moment. I need to be able to work with the way things are in the moment and not be overwhelmed by the disappointment that I have that my ideals aren't living up to the expectations that I might have of them. I was reading a piece on Starhawk's Facebook page this morning, and she was talking about Father's Day, and she said that she was talking about men, right? So men who were of her father's generation, who would have participated in one way or the other in the Second World War. Obviously, women did too, but on the front lines, it was mainly men, of course. And she was saying maybe everything that we experience as women, as we seek to work against and to disrupt a toxic masculine culture, she said maybe that culture is a product of trauma, of collective trauma. I've not put the words as beautifully as she did. Now in the blog post I'll do a quote so you can see that, so you can look at her page as well. And she was saying, well, she wasn't saying this really got me thinking then about this idea that we can have things in the world that we say, this is so awful, this is so terrible that this has happened, or we can feel a lot of anger and a lot of, they are the oppressor, we are the oppressed, they are the villain, we are the victims, all of these things. We are human beings, have a propensity to make story, and we like things that are very black and white. And this is one of the dangers of the Dargaz rune. It comes up in the Issa rune as well. Are we going to be doing the Issa rune today? Yes, we are. Is this feeling of such certainty that we can sometimes make ourselves, we can create our own illusions that everything is as simple as that. And if I'm the good guy, everyone else must be the bad guy. And that created the Second World War in the first place. And so this is a really important piece, and I was feeling into this and I was going, that feels so important to recognise that the things that we perceive in the world as being those things that do not represent our ideals, that we do not want to be present in the world, if we try and force them, if we try and break them, if we try and say, no, I'm down with you, without recognising how they were produced in the first place, we can get ourselves into serious trouble. So this place of ideals and illusion is the space of play for us as modern day heroes to work with at the moment. So before I begin, I wanted to say two things, just housekeeping pieces. So first of all, well, maybe not a housekeeping piece from my perspective, this is the last week that you are able to join Awaken to the Runes for the coming year. So we open a new program in the half month of Fayed, which follows the half month of Dargaz. So if you are thinking about, is this my year to really get to know the runes, to start to work with them as tools for deep seership, deep healing, to work with them magically for manifestation, to journey with them, then this is the week to join, because it will not be open. Next we will be starting, we'll be having our welcome circle next Monday night. So that's the first thing to say. Do not delay if that's what you're thinking of. The second thing to say is that as I'm talking to you through Middle Earth readings, I'm referencing Suna's Star Wheel. So Suna's Star Wheel came out yesterday for those people who are members. So Suna's Star Wheel is essentially you get an email just before or on the new moon talking you through all the planetary movements. You get things like this little templates here, which is what I work with in order to create Middle Earth readings for you. And it takes me through all of the runes and all of the different planets. And I do a live for Suna's Star Wheel members about the full month ahead. All of the runes that are coming up and the energies are coming and the overarching energy for each week. It contains resources for you. So there's a resource hub with lots of resources in, and then there are highlight resources that are given in the email. So this week we have a new guide to the moon with, I've revised the guide to the moon. I've included some other stuff for the spiritual geeks amongst you. So we have the old High German moon names, for example, are now in the lunar guide. There is your a story called The Priestess of the Moon that is in there now as well to support you with your working with the moon, and there is a meditation about working with the waxing and the waning phases of the moon. So there's new resources there. There are some, the 5 power questions, we looked at them last week, so I'm not going to go into them this week. We looked at 3 of them last week in Middle Earth readings, but there are 5 for you to play into to bring that energy of harnessing the potential of your month. And the soul care meditation for this month is a summer solstice soul care meditation. It's to really help you to integrate and draw in the energies of the month as well. So if you are not a member of Suna's Star Wheel and you're thinking, well, I really missed a trick there, I should be a member of Suna's Star Wheel, I'll pop a link in the chat for you, and you won't receive the email because that's already gone out, but you can click there. We will show you where there is a link where you can click and you can find the email. So there's it's linked to in your main resource page that just says June New Moon. You can click on that and you'll find all of the resources that I'm talking about there. So those are available. So that's important. If you're planning to join Awaken, do it this week. If you would like to join me for Suna's Star Wheel, for meditations and a little bit about runic astrology and just really harnessing the energy of the month to come, you can do so within Suna's Star Wheel. So with that, let's have a look at your planetary movements for this week. So I mentioned this energy of illusion and of idealism coming through this week. And it partially is embodied by the Dargaz-rune, but it is also present because of some of the other runes that are, the planets are in their spheres at the moment, and so they're particularly oomphy and heavy for us. So we've got the Dargaz-rune, we've got Odin's chariot is in Athala, so he's thinking about legacy. Now I was sort of talking about that sense of looking and saying, what is it that we have inherited and are we happy about that? That comes through as well. We have some quite strong challenger, like emotions, passion, energy coming through because we have 2 planets in Thurisaz. So let me just make sure I don't want to say that. I think it's Tia's chariot. I want to say Tia's chariot and Frigg's chariot. Let me just make sure. Yes, so Tia's chariot, Mars, and Frigg's chariot, Venus, are both in the energy of Thurisaz. So that's quite a deep, passionate, don't mess with me energy, which can be quite difficult if we're really feeling into those fragile dreams that are just birthing within us, and then we're feeling that really strong protective energy coming through at the same time. And we also have Loki's chariot, so that is Saturn, moved into retrograde, and it is in Suolo at the moment. So that's the navigator rune, the rune that sort of says this is the way, this is where we need to come. Because Loki's chariot operates in the realm of constraints and binding, as well as sort of breaking those constraints and breaking those bindings. When it was in Suolo, we might have felt this sense of, oh, we're treading a path that is set out for us. We have to tread this path, which makes a lot of sense in terms of the context of the world at the moment. There's a lot of things that are outside of our control, and we're just having to follow the course. It's almost like your Viking ship is going on the seas, and there is a very high wind, and you have no choice but to follow it. When Loki's chariot goes into retrograde, we lose even that sense that there is a destination a little bit. We can lose that sense of our inner compass, just a little bit. And we have to look externally, we have to look outside of ourselves to find that. And if we don't find that because we're not happy with the way that the world is, with what we have inherited, that can bring out that anger or that frustration. So doing that work around, as I mentioned in Suna Starwell, where we do our 5 power questions, of really bringing to the surface your values, your passions, your vision, is so important at this time, because our subconscious minds are tapping into the energy that says, I don't really know what's going on right now. So it's bringing that to the surface, because your heroic self does. Deep down you do. You know? There is a place inside where we can connect with our own purpose. But at the moment that can be obscured a little bit, that can be a little bit difficult for us to find. And therefore we can find this sense of, we can get a frustration, a sense of frustration with how can I know what I want the world to be like, but it's not. That can come through very strongly. And so that's, for me, this sort of idealism piece and the energies that are going to be coming through and becoming more dominant as the week progresses and as the month progresses, are around being the invitation, creating that, finding the things that we can do, holding our own course by drawing on the knowing that we have developed inside ourselves when we did have more clarity. Nurture it, woo that future. We can't force it. We can't force it. Going back to Starhawk's point, you know, there are people who sacrificed so much that we might have this world, and some of them became rigid or broken through that process, perhaps more than we even realized. You know? And so having that ability to gently woo the future and deal with the aftermath, these sort of psychic aftershocks of events that we think, oh, that's so far in the past, what if it's not, you know, is important through this time. Okay, so we're going to be working with 4 runes, and all of them, I just want to say all of them offer their own wisdom and their own insights into how we can manage this energy of idealism and illusion. So we're going to start with Largus. That's one of the runes that has come forward, and part of the reason for that is because we have a planetary movement this week, which is Thor's chariot is going to move into Largus. So it's moving out of Manaz, this sort of strong sovereign energy. You know, I mentioned that was the time for connecting with who am I, what do I stand for, into Largus, which is a more flowing energy, more of what is needed in order for the world that I see to come. How do I need to, you know, literally like water, Largus is the energy of water. How do I need to tend to that, to my realm? How do I need to nurture it to allow it to grow and flourish? So here we have the Largus rune. And there is also a cleansing here. So this is about cleansing, releasing, flowing with. It's a reminder that when things are not going the way that we want them to in the world and things are hard and tough, one of the first things that we need to do is to work on our own, often referred to in the circles that I work with coaching, as our own emotional hygiene. You know, so if we've got that big build-up of Thurisaz energy that has come through Tyr's chariot and Frigg's chariot being in Thurisaz, sort of passion, maybe a bit of anger, a bit of boundaries, like people might have been crossing your boundaries, pushing them a little bit through this time. Now is the time for releasing and healing with the Largus rune, and thinking about how can I bring that sense of service, and how can I, instead of pushing things that I don't want or need out of, you know, sort of force them out of my sphere, working more with the Largus rune, more with that, how can I allow them to, you know, I'm returning them to the current, I'm returning them to the flow. You know, giving back what you can't control to the gods, for example, is a really powerful way of working with the Largus rune, saying, no, I'm done with this, I'm releasing it, I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go with the Largus rune. It's a very powerful energy to work with through this Thor's chariot energy. So Thor's chariot is Jupiter, with this Largus, they're very complementary, sort of deep, anchored power of Thor and the flowing energy of water can come together really beautifully. So it's very fertile ground for change and transformation if we are able to navigate the choppy waters, and if we are able to release our own responses to a world that is not as we would like it to be in this moment. So then we have the rune that wanted to come next is the Isa rune. So Isa is the rune of ice. It's a bit of a complement to and a different energy to the Largus rune. So obviously it is frozen water. So Largus is all flowing and all stable. And what Isa does is it reminds us that much as we might like things to change and just say, just do what I want you to do. Why can't you just, this will be so much better, and you can feel it inside, particularly if you've been reaping all of your passion through the course of the last few weeks, feeling that Thurisaz energy. Then you butt up against something and you just go, this person, they just will not. They're not listening, they're not doing what I ask them to do, they're not able to respond to what I want. And this is where the compassion piece comes in. The Isa rune is the rune of ice, so it's the rune of stability, it's the rune of rigidity to a certain extent. It is a rune of great strength and great beauty. And it reminds me, in a Frigg's chariot, there's one of the Frigg's chariot oracles, talks about, all acts were originally intended as acts of love. And it's that reminder of saying, however challenging, difficult, frustrating a circumstance might be or a person might be, at some point it is helpful for our idealist self, and I'm not saying that it is always true, but for our idealist self, that part of you that is taking the heroic journey, it is helpful to hold the belief that somewhere in the distant past, that person or that thing or that event was formed with the idea of love, that an ideal was created, however far they have strayed from that. Because the Isa rune is also the rune of the ego, and it can be incredibly difficult, particularly for somebody who might be deeply wounded or might be experiencing past trauma and might be shaping their present actions based on past trauma. Incredibly difficult for them to let go of that. The Isa rune talks about the blind needing to be led, because that person can't see any other way. They can't see any other way. They're essentially trapped in the ice, and it might not be their fault. The other thing with the Isa rune is that it is incredibly strong. If you think about a bridge here, it's an incredibly strong structure until the weight becomes too much, and there is a risk for people who have become stuck in this energy that if you push too hard, they will break. And that's something that we need to bear in mind. That they might have only just managed to hold on to where they are in that moment right now. They might just be managing to not break every day. So the energy of compassion is incredibly important here. Now this rune brings in, at the solstice, we will also be having the opening of Heimdall's hall, Himmelbjorg. So Himmelbjorg will be opening, and Himmelbjorg is the hall that looks out over the bridge between Midgard, our realm, and the realm of the gods. So we have Heimdall, and he's watching and he's listening, and he is there. He symbols that the warning that he has, the horn, and he warns when danger is close. And there is a sense of saying the more that you're able to develop your instincts, the more that you're able to develop your intuition and to feel into the moment. What does this person need right now? There's this point at which we can say, okay, I might have an agenda, I might have something, I might be holding on to the ideals that I want to bring in the moment, but that might not be what's needed in the moment. What is it that they need? And so your Heimdall energy, working with Heimdall, you can say, how can I more fully access that my own intuition to know whether somebody is ready to hear the beautiful words of wisdom that I've received or the healing that I have to offer, or whether they're just not going to do it and I'm just going to be banging my head against a brick wall or potentially breaking them, is what comes through. And there is the rune that we've talked about. I think we've talked about it a little bit already, because we talked about Loki's chariot in Suelo, haven't we? It's feeling into the Suelo energy. So if we've got our Isa rune, which can be quite rigid and quite strong, instead of that sort of hard bashing energy, let's say, we can look for how can I bring the energy of the sun, to this? How can I bring that flowing energy of the sun to this? It reminds me of that tale that you might know about where there's a person walking across the hill and they've got their coat on, and the wind says, "I am stronger than you, O sun." And the sun says, "Oh, okay, how are you going to prove that?" And the wind says, "I will manage to make this person, I'm going to take their coats from them, and you're not going to be able to do that." And the sun says, "Oh, okay, we can try that." And the wind blows and blows, and the person huddles into the coat and is like, "No, no, no, I'm not letting go, I'm not letting go." They hold on really tight, and then the sun comes out and just sort of like radiates the sky with warmth, and the person goes, "Ah." So the Suelo rune has come, I think, forward as a guide for this week, not only to say, yes, it might be that it feels as if the world, with the Loki's chariot energy, tends to be a energy that is about global events and collective energy. You still have access to your sun path, to your right path. And sometimes, instead of the energy of challenge, we need the energy of nurturing and warmth, and that will do more to thaw the ice than this is the way that it needs to be, whatever it is that you're trying to sort of force that change. You're trying to force the world that you see into becoming. Try a little bit of warm sun energy to support that. So if that's your rune, there is this sense of, what else might be possible? What else might be possible? What does my intuition say? What does my instinct say? How do I remember my overall goal? And then choose a different path to get to it, because the one that I'm on isn't working in this point. So that's our Suelo rune. And the final rune that wanted to come and play with us today, and I was a bit like, oh, when that came out, because all of the other runes, I was like, oh yes, I can see how they build them themselves, is the Hagalaz rune, the rune of the hail seed. So Hagalaz comes, and I was like, oh, well, isn't that just contradicting everything that we have just said about using the gentle solar energy, the sun energy coming through? And Hagalaz was like, no, actually no. The Hagalaz energy is the rune of the hail seed, so it's also a rune of ice. But unlike the Isa rune, which is very stable and powerful and still, the Hagalaz rune, because it's the hail seed, is like hurling itself through space towards its destination. It is the seed of change, of the universe righting itself and saying, this has gone too far. And the hail comes and it removes all of the dross and all of the stuff that's no longer needed. It helps us to shed our old skins and step into the new. It can be a slightly uncomfortable and difficult process. And it's a reminder that if you have the hail sort of smashing against the ice, which one's going to win? I don't know. It's not going to be pretty. And even the hail seeds might break up, or the ice might break up. And there is a violence that can come about when we try to use the Hagalaz energy all the time. So what Hagalaz is saying is actually, where is your space for conflict? Where is your space for disagreement and dialogue? And this is what Hagalaz invites us into. It says, there is always going to be disagreement. There is always going to be conflict. There is always going to be uncomfortable moments. They are always going to be there. But the hail seed is not all energy everywhere is hail all of the time. It is a seed. Is it a crystalline cocoon, little cave of transformative potential that comes forth from conflict and change and disruption? That is what it represents. And so it says, where are your spaces for this? Where are your spaces where you say, to your partner, I want to talk about this. Let's not do it while we're in the middle of doing something else, doing the chores, or we're in the hubbub of the moment. Let's create a space where we know it's going to be difficult, and we know that it's going to be uncomfortable, but we are aware that that is the point, that we're both going into this consciously. The same is true in group environments, where we say, okay, there are some different differing opinions happening here, or I can feel that there's some challenge here. Let's create a space where that Hagalaz energy can manifest itself can run its course, where we can give each other permission to be a bit raw and a bit challenging, and to say the things that we're thinking inside, but we're worried about saying them because the other person might be offended or upset. No, to say, what are the spaces that you need? So you might want to think back, if you've got the Hagalaz rune at the moment, you might want to think about feeling back into, when were the times when I was able to speak my truth and be heard? And what was it about the place or the space that created that and made that possible? When were the times when I was able to receive somebody else's truth and it didn't feel good, but I was able to be supported in moving through that, in, what's the word I'm looking for? In being vulnerable, in sometimes feeling a bit hurt, but not being harmed. There's a difference. We can hurt each other. Of course we can. But that doesn't mean that we harm each other all of the time. What Hagalaz does is it says you can't leave all of the things unsaid inside. That is part of the ideals that you have. Those ideals, the future that you're dreaming of, they are trying to break free from your spirit that has been born to hold them and contain them and to bring them into the world. And if you do not find channels that allow that energy to come through, it's going to break through and smash through at times, maybe not in the most graceful of ways. So Hagalaz says there are moments which we can create, like Hagalaz moments that we can create. So those are our 4 runes that are deep dive runes for this week in Wildcard Week. So as a reminder, we're working with illusion, and we are working with idealism. We've got Thor's Chariot moving into Laguz, that's happening on the 22nd. We've got Heimdall's Hall is opening, that's on the 21st. And I didn't mention, which I should have mentioned, Odin's Chariot. I think I mentioned it at the beginning, but I'll just mention it now. So Odin's Chariot, as a reminder, Mercury is moving into Dargaz. So he's moving out of that Athala legacy energy into the Dargaz energy. So doing this work on ideals and illusion is a really great preparatory piece for then being able to move on into next week's energy, which is going to be quite different. And Odin's Chariot opens that sense of being able to articulate, this is me, this is who I am, comes with Odin's Chariot in Dargaz. So I'm looking forward to that and working with you on that. Thank you so much for those of you who have joined me. I have a suspicion that maybe the microphone issues are still a problem. Thank you for those of you who have hung on. Please do share your runes of the week. Let me know how you are traveling at the moment. Michelle says, thank you. Good, Michelle. Thank you, because that helps me to know that you could hear me as well. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. And just as a reminder, Awaken, if you want to join Awaken, this is the week to do it. And that there is still time if you want to get your Sooner Star resource and get your hands on that lovely summer solstice meditation, and start to deepen into your practice of runic astrology and working with the energies of each lunar month.